Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And just a moment of silence for those who are no longer with us. Thank you.
Roll call, trustee Downing,
Here.
Driscoll,
Here.
trustee Patton.
Here.
Trustee DiDonato,
Here.
trustee Ryan.
Here.
And trustee O'Malley.
Here.
Is John coming?
The village attorney will be late, but yes, he's coming. Okay. As you can see, we've got a new setup this time, and it throws everything just a little bit off. So we'll see how it works out. All right. Under announcements, the village elections are next week, Tuesday, from 12 to 9. The elections will be held here in the Village Hall. And we ask that people come out and support those folks that are willing to work hard for their community. Also, this past weekend, the bed race went off, and it was quite an event. Saw some cars driving through with just amazing looks on the driver's faces as they saw these beds.
Nobody died.
Nobody died, but there were men running around in red underwear, and I just, and they seemed to have won the race. I guess they were running the fastest, because the police were after them, I don't know. But anyway, it looked like it was a lot of fun. People had fun, so that was great. We also had the wind chimes in the park, and hopefully that'll expand as we go forward, but that was pretty nice too, just hearing those. So that was great. There's going to be a prescription drop-off here held on April 26th. There'll be a banner out front, and the police department will be involved in that. So we just want to bring that to people's attention. It's, believe it or not, and we probably won't believe it tomorrow, but yesterday we had a department head meeting, and I wanted to know who was in charge of spring, because they were doing a lousy job. Well, apparently they got the message, because today was terrific, but I'm hearing that tomorrow we might be going the other way. But long story short, we are actually planning the village cleanup day, and that's kind of like the official beginning of spring, and that's going to be on Saturday, May 3rd. It's always been a good time, and a lot of work gets done. All of the schools get involved with that. So it's an opportunity to come out and help out a little bit.
Is there hours on that, Dave?
Yeah, it's
9 to noon.
9 to noon. Yeah, tent will be set up,
10 will be here.
At the park?
the bags and
Start.
everything. Yeah, we'll
The
have
big
a
flowers.
truck, Neil, out here for trash. All right.
Nod your head.
Yes, we will. Okay. So anyway, that's moving along. A couple of other announcements. The Eagles will be hosting a corned beef and cabbage dinner on Saturday the 15th, beginning at 2 o'clock, and there's going to be a band. So that sounds like a good time. The Hoosick Community Day. We've been trying to publicize that for March 30th. It's a day to get down to the Times Union Center. Transportation is going to be provided. We're not getting as big a response as we had hoped, so if we don't get a really good response by the end of this week, we may have to just cancel. And again, I don't take that as a reflection on people not wanting to be around, but there's a lot going on. A lot of different activities, basketball, all kinds of things. If it doesn't work out, we will certainly let people know, and we'll try to plan something again next year, maybe a little earlier in the season. I just wanted to let you know about that, okay? On April 5th, there'll be a spring auction at St. Mary's, so they're looking forward to that. Okay, correspondence.
Before we move on to that
Yep.
day, will we be declaring a snow emergency if we get this heavy snows that they're predicting?
Well, yeah, if it's 3 inches or more, that's the standard that we go by. I watched the weather tonight, and that line keeps going up and down, so,
Depends what channel you watch.
well, yeah, that too. Looked like we were in the 2 to 5 range, but they said if the line drops or goes up a little bit higher, it could be more snow, it could be more rain.
And if
we
we
just
get the
gotta wait
snow,
and
is that
see.
emergency Thursday or Friday?
It will depend on when the snow falls, so, Neil, what would you say to that? Well, we'll have to see, most of the snow is intended to come overnight,
Right.
It's supposed to come Wednesday night into
Wednesday
Thursday,
into
right?
Thursday,
Right.
so that would give them Thursday to clean up, and then Friday to
Maybe
really
snow
go
Wednesday.
into it.
Okay.
Generally speaking, it's the day after the event, because they're busy clearing the roads, during the snow. So we'll just have to see a little bit on that one. Okay? Correspondence? If you're not doing anything Saturday, going to the corned beef dinner or anything else, there's gonna be a parade here in town. The village board is invited to march in that parade. I think you missed it last year, Jeremy, as I recall, so we'll be saving you a spot right up front. The board will be marching, it's a good time. Kevin, have you got an update on,
We have our grand marshals, Pat and Rita Hayes Bolson,
right?
and we have an Irishman for a day this year, Phil Leonard, we're honoring him.
I saw that, yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah, Phil's done a lot for the community, so we thought he should be honored.
That's pretty nifty. Great. So, okay. And we've got a number of bands participating.
7 bands,
Oh, great. And we step off at 1 o'clock?
right.
Okay.
Lineup's around 2:20, or 12:20.
12:20.
12:20.
If you have young children and you're looking for something to do before the parade starts, Dr. Seuss's birthday celebration at
At the library.
the library.
Yes.
10 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, that looks pretty good too. That looks very good. Okay. Another sign of spring is the town of Hoosick baseball and softball opening day is on April 26th. And again, the board is invited to that. There'll be a little more information coming out about that, but that's a sign of spring.
Starts here at 11.
Let me give you the time.
Park at 11.
The day will kick off at 11 o'clock with a parade through town, escorted by the local police and fire departments. Field ceremony will begin at approximately 11:30. So we'll have the main ceremonies down at the field, but yeah, we'll be stepping off at 11 o'clock. Okay, so again, the board is invited to that. All right. Cambridge Valley Rescue Squad is having a Mardi Gras party on March 29th, and we have a flyer on that. Very colorful, Saturday the 29th, from 5 p.m. to whenever it says. That sounds like it could be a good time. Definitely will be. You keep sending me stuff. What are you doing? All right.
Detail.
The outdoor expo that the Central School usually hosts. In the last year, it was held at the Armory. They want to do it again at the Armory this year. So we're looking for that to be held on Friday, March 28th, and Saturday, March 29th at the Armory. Neil and Chief will be looking to close off Elm Street so that school buses will be able to drop off students for that. So that's really quite an event. Last year, the entire Armory was filled with a lot of good times by folks. Ken Facine estimates they'll be transporting over 400 students just from Central School. So
What are the times again, Dave? I'm sorry, Friday and Saturday?
the expo is, thank you very much.
Actually,
Yeah, it's the 28th and the 29th, but do you know what the time is on that? Would it be 9?
Early till like 9 till,
Probably, well, Friday will probably be the evening, right?
yeah, if it goes to the evening, then the next morning early till at least by 3 or something.
But the schools will be participating
They're-
Friday
they're
during the
11,
day.
They start coming in, 10,
Yeah.
11. And St. Mary's will be going.
We'll have to get the exact times,
Okay, no
because we
problem.
just don't have
I'm
them.
gonna know for myself.
Alice, will you have the details on the Hasty 3 website, or we should go to the school website to get details for that?
I haven't gotten the information from Ken, but so
Okay.
we'll figure it out. Yeah,
Okay.
I know it's on the school website right now.
Okay.
But again, Neil and Chief, if you guys would coordinate so that we can make sure the streets are closed and everything will work out that way.
We
Okay,
just usually just shut down that whole street and.
section of
allow
Elm.
them to come in through just the parking lot.
Okay, great. There was a rescue squad recognition dinner a couple of weeks ago over at the country club. And a number of people, Jim Monahan was recognized for all of the work that he does with the rescue squad. And it was a very nice turnout. A lot of people were there. The village received a nice framed plaque, as did the police department, thanking them for their help with the rescue squad. So it was really, really a good time. They had some entertainment. The guy was a magician, and he was really good. It was really good. It was a good show. And let's see. The Lions Club. Lions Club is requesting to use the park, the bandstand, and the village streets. How about that? They want to use the streets on Saturday, May 13th. This will be the Wood Memorial Road Race. What did I say?
13th.
Yeah, it's 17th. It's written right here. Thanks. Saturday, May 17th, from 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. 6 a.m. to 1 p.m. Chief, what I did ask the Lions, I talked to Don Pierce about this, was for him to get in touch with you, because I know we've changed the route for some of the different races, but just to coordinate exactly what that would be. Okay? So they would like to do that, and I believe that the board will need to take action on giving them permission for that road race.
Motion?
Ben, Bob D., any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion's carried. Great. Anything more under correspondence? What do we have here? Well, yeah, really an announcement to make, and I think most people are aware. We've got a drive-in in this community. And it looks like it's going to continue for a while. So that is really very, very good news. Last week there was a fundraiser held at the Armory, which was quite successful. A lot of people had a very good time. And then just within a few days, we get word that they've been able to meet their funding and that they're planning on opening up. I think it's April 25th, that weekend. So that's pretty exciting. It's a good shot in the arm, and hopefully they will continue to do well. And we will have one of the, what is it, less than 500 drive-ins in the country, I think. The peak was 1958, and there were over 5,500 drive-ins. Little useless trivia for you. In 1938, the first drive-in opened up in Pennsylvania. Forget exactly where. Can't remember the date, but I got all these useless facts up here. And it was not called a drive-in. You know what it was called? A park-in. You drove and you parked. It was called a park-in. In case that comes up sometime. You never know when you're going to need that. That could be a lifesaver. So anyway, okay, so that's good news. All right, moving on to people to be heard. Ailish?
I just wanted to give everybody the update on our Hoosick Barn Hill project. This is just a great overall piece that kind of has answered some questions that people might have. So, all the pallets have been made. We have 30 altogether, some 8x8, some 4x4, well constructed and all primed and ready to go. The artists have been signed up for, and we're doing some at the farmer's market. So every Wednesday it'll be a communal event, so people can come and actually do that. Here's a whole listing of events. You know, it's Hasty 3, it's not enough just to do the barn quilts. We actually have a lot of different mixed media events that deal with the quilts, so there'll be a fun movie night with pie, there'll be collage making, all kinds of events during the whole summer, and then of course a painting at the farmer's market as well, to incorporate the themes of different age groups and different activities. The end result, which is what we're really excited about, not only just more art in our community, they'll be placed in various areas. We're hoping to make 2 figure-8 guys, so you know, you'll loop in north-south and then east-west, always coming back center to the heart of the community, which is a village. So there'll probably be 2 trails, we're hoping. It's looking like that could be possible. The end result is a map, an unveiling and a map, which we're hoping it could be a really great thing for tourism in our community. So people will go out, it could be on a barn, it could be in front of community space in the heart of our community. So different, you know, up high, up low. People have called and asked for things to be on their place. So I think the placement of all the quilts, which will be, we were hoping for 25, will now be 30 on the map. So we think this is the great first run. They usually last about 3 years in our weather. So we're hoping by year 2, if this is successful, and I'm assuming it's going to be, we'll be planning the next leg and then just keep building on it. So kind of ambitious, but the community has been great in supporting it, and we're excited to do it.
So just kind of like a treasure hunt, a map that you'll follow to find these different quilts?
Yep.
Some large, some small?
Mm-hmm. So the picture of the actual, and this is, I'm sorry, B. B's great craft group did smaller versions, so we're only using traditional patterns this round. There's crazy quilts and whatnot, but we're using traditional patterns that are happening, so this is a smaller version of what you'll be seeing. But they're really nice. Are you putting on the houses, B?
Yes,
Houses.
our members plan to put them on their houses. Now, the pinwheel one is going to be one in a series of 3 that I'd like to put on the railing at Wood Park, so that when people come around the park, they'll see, using colors similar to that, but 3 different patterns. Yeah.
We're going to be personally painting one for here in the village in the lobby, so you'll be seeing all these various sizes all throughout the community. So the whole community is kind of getting on the crazy barn quilt project, which is really neat. So.
Okay. So that seems to be moving along, and hopefully that'll pick up a little more speed and interest. And this has occurred throughout the country, yes?
It's a real Americana concept, so all throughout the country, but I think we're the only ones in this area,
Yes.
which is one of the reasons why we have old barns, and we have people who love art, and we have a beautiful community, so it's a perfect combination for all this, so. So the day of for the unveiling, we're actually gonna have a quilt show. We're gonna have a caravan to go through the map. You'll come into the Armory, you'll get a map, you'll see some quilts, and I told you that Harold is threatening to have a motorcycle group spearhead the caravan. So, we want people to see our community. We want us to look at how beautiful the community is. I drove around a couple days ago. It's a gorgeous area, just to see where we could place the quilts. So, even for our own selves, to remind us of how beautiful this area is.
Okay.
So, thank you, B, for showing.
Great. And Ailish mentioned that it's one of the smaller, or maybe a little bit bigger than that one. We could look to put out in the foyer up on the wall, make that one of the stopping off points too, that people could take a look at.
Or even out, putting posts in the ground.
We would like to put one in the front of the village in the municipal building, in the ground though, so maybe on an angle. So
Well, I think
that-
we're talking about potentially
So
2,
when the tree is
one
gone,
inside.
Definitely one inside, they'll be painted on canvas. But we're hoping maybe a 4x4 could be anchored, maybe on an angle, so in front of the municipal office.
Well, we can certainly take a look at that. Yep. Sounds good. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. All right. Gail, the Patriot Flight?
Yeah, I actually have a few events that I'd like to announce. On March 22nd, next Saturday, Hoosick Falls Community Alliance is having our annual outdoor sportsman's banquet, game dinner, and the public is invited. And we're asking folks who like to hunt to bring a game dish, side dishes, desserts, and beverage will be provided. That's at 6 o'clock at Community Alliance Church. And then for Voice of a Vet, I have 2 events, and we're working with Patriot Flight. We have they sponsor a trip to Washington to all the war memorials for World War II veterans, and they're also taking applications from Korean War veterans. And we've got several from the community already who are planning on going. We're very excited about that. So if you know of any World War II veterans or Korean War veterans, have them get in touch with me and I can give them the applications. And on March 29th, we're going to be having at Hoosick Falls Community Alliance Church an event called Memoirs of War. And it'll be from 3 to 5 in the afternoon. And we'll be focusing on, we'll be taking some news clippings that were clipped by Mary Kipp, who was a resident of Hoosick Falls, who had 5 sons who served in World War II. And there are a couple of binders in the Historical Society that are this thick. And so we're taking some of those clippings and we're focusing on some local folks, and just going to kind of make, combine local history with world history. And it's going to be a great event. We also have some families who have received letters from loved ones from war that they'll be reading. And the Historical Society will be there with a display too. So we just love to have the community come and join us for that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, could you tell me the date again on the sportsman's dinner?
It's 22nd,
22nd.
next Saturday,
Oh, Saturday.
6 o'clock.
Is there anyone else to be heard? Dan?
Since the last board meeting, we've had 2 more accidents on Fisk. In the parking lot.
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering what we're doing about it, the board's doing about it, or addressing it.
Well, I
Safety
bel-
issue,
I,
I'm talking safety issue, I'm not talking the accident itself, I'm talking the safety issue. That's what I was talking.
okay. Those were reported to the police, I believe?
Yes, they were,
Okay,
Tickets were issued.
yes, they were.
okay.
And
So,
the question came up that Dan asked me about backing out, the proper way of backing out because of the angle. There is nothing on the books that says how you know, on an angle, whether you back, pull left, pull to right. Use common sense. And
Mhm.
if they're backing out, like in this particular situation, struck a car, it's unsafe back, and the person was ticketed for that, as well as leaving the scene.
Yes.
So I can't give you an answer as to the proper way of backing out. It's like anything else.
But the whole issue here is this parking lot is a safety issue in itself, backing out in the street.
mm-hmm,
It don't contain just these 2 accidents, there's been like 6, 7 more on top of these 2.
Well, let's keep in mind though, that the 6 to 7 that you speak about, I'm not saying it wasn't. We have to be notified. We're not being notified on all of
This
these.
board was notified of every
Well,
accident.
No, hang on. The board has been notified. When they call us immediately, when it happens, and we can respond,
Yes.
and we can take immediate action on it.
We understand that, but
Okay.
this is not what the issue is. The parking lot itself is an issue. Where it's at, how it's set up, the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the actual police department, it has to do with poor judgment of the parking lot. That's what I'm putting across.
okay. Well, I think that's something that we need to take a look at, there's no doubt about that. I think the correct thing has been done in terms of reporting this to the police. So that's a good step, and every issue like that should be reported to the police. We should also be completing any of the nuisance complaints as well. And we need documentation on that. And I have asked code enforcement, and he's not, was he out today?
He's got pneumonia.
I've asked code enforcement to follow up with the landlord of the particular property, and that will be happening. And then I think once we have that information, we can then take a look, and if we wanna make any changes on that road, we could take a look at that. And we have to see what's allowable, what we think we can do, and hopefully what the results would be from that. So we'll take a look at that.
That's my question. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? No? Okay. Treasurer's report. There will not be a treasurer's report this evening. We're gonna hold that over to next month. There's just been a lot going on. So we will hold that. We have the minutes from 2 January meetings, the 7th and the 21st. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to take a look at those and
I'll
see
make the
those.
motion, we accept those as presented.
Both?
Yes.
Both? Okay, Bobby, first, Jeremy, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion's carried, thank you. Committee reports? Hmm? I see. Committee reports, Chief, can we start with you? In terms of a police report?
Oh, yes, thank you. This is for March 11th. Outside agencies, just two larcenies, 7 domestics, 7 property damage auto accidents, 2 drug arrests, 5 warrant arrests, 2 harassments, 3 check the welfare, 10 EMS, calls, 1 citizen assist, 2 noise complaints, 2 alarm drops, 1 driving while intoxicated arrests, 2 alarm drops, 3 criminal mischief reports, 3 code enforcement reports, 1 fraud investigation, 1 assist the fire department, 1 personal injury auto accident, 1 abandoned vehicle, 1 repossessed vehicle, for a total of 59 calls.
What were the total number of calls, please?
59.
59 calls, okay.
I touched base with Dave, just to let you know that we've been approved for a new radio grant. It's approximately $50,000. It's gonna replace all of our existing radios here. They'll be giving us 13, excuse me, portables, 4 mobile units for the patrol cars, and 1 base station here. These radios is gonna be digital. we'll be able to talk with our portable from here to Skodak. Our concerns about being in certain buildings and not being able to get out at times to talk to the 911 center, it will be taken care of. It's not costing the village a penny. It's been put in with the big grant that the county had. We've been working with them for the past year. Next week, there's gonna be a training exercise, I think it's next week, that we'll be at. And then we hope to have the radios by July. So it's a big plus for us. Ailish has also offered some assistance for grant writing. We're gonna be meeting with her, so that we're hoping to, since we've got our computers straightened out and our track system straightened out now, all our reports are done here at the station. They're immediately sent to the state and they're recorded, where before we were having problems by handwriting these out, which was preventing us from seeking other grants, but that's been rectified. Hopefully within the next month or so, Ailish and I and Harold will be back from his little vacation, and we'll be able to start sitting down and putting together some more grants, so hopefully we'll be able to report to you with that.
Can I just ask, with these radios coming in, the existing radios,
Yes.
what we've talked about doing with those existing radios, which still work, right? They're both mobile and there's some base stations.
Yes.
Okay. One of the things that we're talking about is utilizing those existing radios, again, within highway department, within the water department, sewer department, so that everybody can stay in contact. Also gonna talk to the local fire departments, so that we can all be on the same page, if you will, no pun intended, in terms of communication. So we wanna use those. And we also, where it's appropriate, we may wanna turn some of those into base stations, so that whether it's at the clerk's office or somewhere else within the community, if there's a need for someone to call or contact the police or 911, it can be done immediately. So we wanna take advantage and not recycle it, doesn't give the right tone to this, but we wanna use these because they're perfectly good.
They're fine.
It's just that we've got a significant upgrade, but we wanna take advantage of being able to use these others as well. So the police department's been cooperating in that.
The other thing I wanted to touch base with, and Rick, maybe we can put this somehow on the website. We're having a lot of outside of New York State people moving in. We'll use Vermont, for example. They're living here. They have a month to register their vehicles here, okay? I see the cars sitting there. They're sitting out in front of people's houses. I kind of check over a period of time so I can kind of determine that they're there more than overnight. It's kind of difficult for us to pull them over when they say, oh, I was only spending the night. So we're trying to track it down in one way or another to determine that they're living there more than once. There was a particular person on 5th Street. I finally caught her walking out the door, and I informed her that she's got to get this thing registered soon. She's been there for a year. So we are going to try to step it up on that. I was thinking though, maybe we can make some kind of announcement,
Certainly.
and remind them that they have a time
Right.
frame to their licenses and their registrations.
And it can be on the TV channel as well.
It's, I think it'll,
Yeah, anything that goes on the
And that
website
the
generally makes it over the
training
Facebook
before
page,
they-
yeah.
Okay.
and you're right, but again, I can't just pull them over without reason to pull them over, and our reason now is that we're kind of checking on it a little bit more. The officers are being a little bit more conscious of the fact that, hey, that car's been sitting there at that house for 6 months, so it kind of justifies us to pull them over at that point.
Is that information that Ed can get when he's certifying the apartments and things like that? Where the people are coming from or not? No?
I don't quite understand the question, you mean in
Well,
terms of,
when he's saying that if somebody's moving into an apartment, right, from out of state, will he find that information out from the landlord of where the people are coming from?
I think you can, because I've asked landlords.
Well,
that as
I'm just
well.
wondering if that's information that can be turned over. You know, if you know that information, that they are coming from Vermont, they have a Vermont car, you have 30 days. It's, you know.
just like part of a notice to say.
Exactly.
Like
I
Dave,
mean,
remember
if
we
he-
talked about with when we met with Ed the other night, we discussed out like a greeting package for a
Right.
landlord, you know?
Right, it would
This,
have
an
that kind of
informational package
information.
and tell them, you know, residents moving in from out of state have 30 days to, we can include that if Ed can include that in the packet if he when he gets it together. I mean,
If we,
I think it can be. I think
Yeah.
it'd be a wise thing to do.
then we'd be on strong footing to say people were notified of
They
this.
were.
right,
Right.
you're notified when you moved in, so,
So yeah, let's check that out. I think that's a good idea.
okay.
And the other thing Ed and I have spoken about is somehow, and I know he's gonna be talking to you, or unless he's already talked to you, somehow with these houses that are being abandoned, foreclosed on, if we can gather more information. I was on a house up, on Barton, I think it was, they had 5 feet of water inside the basement.
Mhm.
You know, it was an abandoned house, we got a call there for, an open door. The power was still on, when I got there, you know, I could see the water was coming into the basement from upstairs, so I don't know how we can go about, we had no number to call. I mean, there's notices all over the door, but it's a Sunday afternoon with no numbers to call. The fire department had to come and something, maybe we can, I don't know, force these
Well,
banks to
let's
disclose.
talk about that is, mortgage companies hire these safeguard properties and blah, blah, blah. And Josh will tell you that they will talk to the people. They'll get us the bank number, they never do.
Yeah,
We don't know what bank they're working for,
They had
so that we
car
can
by,
contact.
Cart darts yesterday, and we had no idea where it was from, but they were in front of it. What they were doing, we had no idea.
Where's that?
Up by Cart darts,
Yeah.
Stevens' old house.
Well,
Silver van?
No, it's a truck like,
to address this as a result of that particular situation, and that happened probably maybe 3 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago, what I've asked Ed to do is start to compile a list. And he's got one in place already. He started when I spoke to him earlier in the week, or the end of last week. It was somewhere around 38, 39 properties on that list. What we're doing is we're gonna put a list together of all the abandoned properties within the village. We're gonna see if we can track down who the owner is. Sometimes we have records, sometimes we don't, because they flip these places. I've just recently forwarded him some information about a company that NICOM, the New York Commission of Mayors, is recommending that we use, which can be very helpful in terms of getting information about these properties. But long story short, what we're gonna try and do ourselves, once we put together this list, knowing where they are, then we're gonna be looking to turn the water and the utilities off. So, and now that we are really getting into spring, it'll be a lot easier to do that. That will minimize the number of times something will break and freeze. We're also gonna contact National Grid and have them pull the meters on those properties.
can I make a suggestion?
Yes,
When we
please.
compile this list, we'll try to figure out how we can put it into our computer as well, so on a Sunday,
Ah,
we can, if
Yeah.
the call comes into us, we can punch it into our computer and come up with the same information that Ed has, and that if we can't get a hold of Ed, or when we do make the phone call to Ed, we can be on the phone with the property owner and tell them they need to respond
Yeah.
as well, so it might be something.
I mean, what we could do, clearly, maybe between Kevin and Bob, however you wanna work it out, because it's gonna involve the police department, as well as code enforcement, water department. Sewerage, I'm not so sure, in terms of anything going on that way, primarily water. Yeah.
Water, yeah.
You know, if we can pull, if you guys wanna look at this in terms of a committee, so that we'll have that list, because we also utilize the list during the good weather for sprucing up
lawns, right.
properties and things like that. So yeah, if we could start on that and see if that list can be shared between the police department, so
We
that
get calls.
information's available.
For abandoned buildings where kids are in, or whomever, and we catch them in the building, obviously you pursuing charges, but if we don't have someone as a complainant on a vacant building,
Mm-hmm.
I really can't charge the person. I mean, you can charge them, but once it gets to court, they're gonna throw the charges out because there is no per se complaint. Whether that's the bank, or whether it's Bob Ash, who doesn't live in the village but owns a house in the village and rents it out and it's abandoned, at least we can contact them and say, hey, listen, so-and-so was in your building, they did damage, or they were in it, and we'd like you to, pursue the charges.
Well, maybe something we could pursue, and I know the village attorney is not here yet, but we could check with him. I'm wondering if perhaps the village itself could could be the complainant in terms of this.
I can't answer.
I know you can't, but
I
I'm just.
don't think so. Only from past experiences, if I'm charging you with something, I need a complainant to be the one that's gonna be charged, that's responsible for the property. I mean, so I really think we're gonna need the homeowner or the bank, or whatever it is that's a complaint.
Well, let's pursue that.
And I gotta commend, I got the call from Ann, but people are conscious of what's going on
Yeah.
here, which is great, and we got a call Sunday afternoon about a possible individual who was wanted from parole. Our guys got there, we were able to arrest him. I came back up, interviewed him, he admitted to a stolen vehicle that was taken in the village. He's been turned over to parole, we've arrested him on it, so, you know, I wanna thank Ann and the
That
others
was a
that
call
called
that
her
I got.
and let her know what was going on, and I encourage you, pick up the phone and call us. Because something like this individual was wanted out of parole, and it was the guy that we knew, or we suspected had stolen the vehicle, and it just worked out really well, so.
So again, if you see something, say something. Don't put yourself at risk, but please make that call so we can follow up. Okay. The other thing I just wanna is your report finished?
Yes, other
Just-
than B, and you can stop in after, cause I've got a
Okay.
press release I'm gonna be giving out to you later on.
I just wanna kinda emphasize the point. The chief gave his report, 59 individual actions were taken in the last month. There's a lot going on in this community. I think probably the great majority of residents of our community really don't have a first-hand knowledge of what the police are involved with, and from the police to the courts. So there's quite a bit going on, and a lot of it is not particularly nice. Now, that's not to mean that this isn't a great place to live. It is a great place to live. But the police department's working hard. The courts are working hard. We have a very high number of cases that come through. So there's reason to have our police department, to have the dog, the drug dog, all of those kinds of things. And it's working. So again, we want to get information out there and make people aware of that. And if you do see something, please say something so we can follow up.
Is 59 a high number, Bob? Is that average?
It's an average
Yeah.
number, I expect that it's gonna increase over the summer months here. It's, I don't know, maybe it's just instinct, or, this
Experience.
summer, I think, because of the winter, the way it is.
Have you had any heroin arrest in the village this year?
We've made an arrest today, that is, it's not a heroin arrest. We made an arrest based off of the information she gave us with the stolen vehicle that is got involved with some, one of our issues that we have here is that we gather the information here, a lot of this stuff is coming from outside in. So when you see arrests in Troy, arrests in Albany, arrests in Vermont, sometimes that's information that we developed in here in the village. We couldn't make the arrest, we immediately pass it on. I met with yesterday, we had a 4-hour meeting at State Police Barracks over some drug information. We followed up today with interviews with some individuals. It's ongoing.
I'm just asking because all the news from
Listening.
Vermont and Bennington that they've been arresting quite a few people for selling heroin, whether it's creeping across the border in Hoosick.
Yes, it is. I'm not gonna say we have an epidemic here, but I would say that we're on it, and you may not see the arrest made out of Hoosick Falls, but the information is shared. We know last year we've made a couple of arrests that were minor arrests here that resulted in major arrests down in Troy that involved guns, and large sums of drugs. A lot of it is moved up here, used, and then the volume is not as high as it would be in Troy per se, because it's just used up here, and,
I think
we have a lot of transits in and out of here.
Well, the story in the New York Times was very sobering, what the addiction could do to people.
And I think maybe just to point it out, there is heroin in the community. Yes, there is. Okay? We've been used as a way station a number of times. We're on the Route 22 corridor, cross over into Vermont, come up from Albany. The police department's involved in a great deal of that. And it always, as the chief has said, it always doesn't result in a direct arrest, but it usually results in additional information, which then leads to other things. So when the board decided to go with our newest officer, our drug dog Mickey, there was a reason behind that. And it's been very successful. So I think we have to stay up with that, continue to stay involved, and then just recognize that these are very difficult times. And yeah, things that are available in society are available here too. But we're doing the best that we can possibly do to counter that. But it just needs constant vigilance.
One of the issues that we're having is that, and I'm not asking for anything, I'm just saying, it's hard with the state police, resources are stretched, the sheriff's department's resources are stretched. We're up here in the corner of Rensselaer County, and I don't think people realize how busy we are. And you turn to the state police and you turn to the sheriffs for assistance. They're giving us whatever they can, when they can. They turn to us more than we're turning to them because they need our help. I mean, I'm not the, we talk about this town and the town and the village joining forces, and we're handling more and more. And Dave and I have discussed it outside the village because people they're not getting it. And they're resulting in some serious issues that are going on. And that Route 22, I think what's happening is people are avoiding that Route 22 thinking they're gonna come around, and then they found that, hey, the police department is here in the village. They are active on traffic stops. Now they're trying to find another way around the village. Our DWIs have dropped significantly because we are on top of it. They're avoiding coming through the village. They're going around the village because they know we're here and that we are, stopping cars and checking on these things.
Okay. All right, thank you. Continue with committee reports. Bob?
I guess our garbage contract comes up in May, but I think we're gonna extend it for one more year and then go out for bid.
Okay.
And the transfer station annual report, I didn't get a chance to read it, but I looked at it and it didn't actually mean anything to me. I don't know what, maybe you looked at it, I don't know. Maybe you can explain what, is stuff going in and going out, is that what it's more like?
I really can't.
Yeah, I
Matt
didn't.
Curley said that he had the report done. And
Oh, I thought that wasn't the full report then, was it, Ann?
That's a full report.
Was it? Looked
Maybe
like
we
a lot
could-
of blank papers to me.
maybe we could follow up with
You
Matt,
wanted to go.
I'll have to call Matt.
if you could, just to get
Yeah.
that.
So,
Okay.
other than that, that's it for me.
Okay, thank you. Jeremy?
Nothing.
Ben?
I met with Josh and Jim at the end of February to go over 2014, 2015 budget stuff, which is always fun. And I asked them to put everything that they are looking for in their budget. Now, whether or not we can approve all of it or not, well, you laugh.
I thought you were
But
my friend.
You laugh, but when you're looking at a budget, the last thing that I want to hear is that, oh, we got to add this, oh, we got to add that. I'd rather have it all in there and have to take it out than to not have it in there and then all of a sudden in December I get, oh, well, we need to do this and it's going to cost us this, and we need to do that and it's going to cost us that. So they were really good about, putting everything in there. I'm sure they didn't have a problem doing it. We just got our water usage for 2013. Our yearly water usage, 158,141,199 gallons. Our average water usage in a month, 433,596.
No, that would be in a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, you said month. You
I'm
meant
sorry,
day.
day. Our high usage came in May when we used in one day 823,000 gallons, and our low was in September when in one day's period we used 303,000. So a lot of the numbers, which I just looked at, they're like staggering of how much water we actually use, and it's amazing that the water department is right on top of it. So I appreciate that very much.
When did the water bills go out again?
We doing them this month, that we read this month,
End of the month, yeah.
April.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Rick, committee report?
Yep, a little quiet on the western front as far as the greenway goes for now until we get into building season when all the snow melts. But I did want to mention, I was going to bring this up the other night. We decided to save it for tonight. But I wish that Ailish was able to hang around a little bit longer. I'm on the board of directors of an entity called Lakes Locks Passage. You've probably heard that name bandied around here before. Now, I prepared some little light reading material that anybody in the audience can grab if they want. That explains a little bit about what Lakes Locks Passage is about. They are a byway that promotes tourism in the region. They have an association with National Geographic, which is a pretty substantial association, where they promote what they call geotourism. And through the National Geographic website and the Lakes Locks Passage website, they get web views from national and international tourists. Now, what Lakes Locks Passage website is based on is input from people who live within the byway. And we are horrendously behind putting in information into our Waypoint community page for things that are going on here. Now, by things, it could be points of interest, it could be businesses, it could be venues, it could be events. Anybody can nominate any of those different things to be included on the passage map. What the only thing Lakes Locks asks is that if you're a business owner and you want your business put on there, like a restaurant, flower shop or something like that, that you include that information yourself, which means you have to register on this website to put the information in. As far as...
Is there a fee or?
No, there is not.
Okay.
As far as historic sites like, Buskirk Bridge is an interesting thing, and somebody who likes covered bridges might want to go see that. Anybody can put that information in, and it will get populated onto the map. Now, as far as terminology goes, Lakes Locks Passage calls these nominations, that you nominate something to be included on the map. 98% of the time, that's going to be included on the map. They call it a nomination because they have staff there that checks all the things out, checks the data, checks the information, and makes sure that it's a legitimate, valid thing that should be on the map. But most of the stuff, through common sense, will get put on the map. Big events that we have, Hoosick, the Barn Quilt Project, the Sportsman Show, all these things should be included as events so the people who might be coming to this region, and by region I don't necessarily mean Hoosick, I mean the whole Lakes Locks Passage region, which goes from downstate a little bit all the way up the Canalway. We're included on it because we have the Bennington Battlefield right in our backyard here. And that's what makes us a Waypoint community. Cambridge is also a Waypoint community. They've obviously got their balloon festival on there. They've got a lot of businesses already registered on there, on the map. And so we just need to get some of these things up. And so I'm asking the community to get involved. And you can go to lakeslockspassage.org. If you don't think you can remember that, on the back page of this, it shows you what the registration page looks like to go online and put your information in, become a registered member. I think you're already a registered member, right, Kev?
Yeah.
From way back.
It's a great website.
Yeah, and let's start populating our map here and make people aware of what's going on.
The town joined last night. The town passed a resolution last night to be
Good.
part of it.
Good.
For the
Great.
kiosk that's going in up by Stewart's.
Yep. Now, we've been designated a Waypoint community for years, but since we haven't input anything to be put on the map, if you search by Waypoint community, we don't even show up. So we really need to get some information on there.
No pun intended, get on the map.
Right, yeah, we need to get on the map. So, obviously, I'm registered, I'll be putting in information when I can. Again, business owners, put your businesses on there. It's just a real important thing, particularly, restaurants and things where tourists are looking for some place to eat. We can put Grandma Moses' gravesite on there, obviously, so that it'll be easier for people to find it than having to walk around the street and ask people who say, I have no idea where it is. So, yeah, exactly. And so I guess that's all I have to say about that. And I'll hope that people will go online start putting information in there.
Would you put in something like this year, the reenactment at the battlefield? No,
Exactly,
no, something
exactly.
like
Now,
that,
Lakes Locks Passage is pretty well entrenched in that reenactment as it is, so they're already aware of
Okay,
that. So
alright.
they'll probably be putting that information up as it is,
Okay.
but,
Even if
yes,
it's like an
that's
annual or
exactly what
something
it
that comes
is,
up once,
yes.
not every year.
yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it's generally like larger events, like Hoosiapalooza, we consider a large event for our community, but it could be even larger if awareness was great.
From outside.
Right, yeah.
Okay, that it?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Bobby?
Just a couple things. Well, first of all, I wanted to, commend the chief on getting those and taking the time to pursue the radios and save the village a huge amount of money that wouldn't have to come our way if he didn't pursue it. I think that's he should be commended for him and Harold for doing the due diligence to look into that with the county. The other thing is, looking at Neil's highway report, just wanted to make sure that it was mentioned that the transfer station will be opening up on Tuesdays again, effective April 1st from 8 to noon. And Bob had a question regarding the, seeing Thursday is going to be a possible snow day. What's going to happen? Do we know what's going to happen with the garbage? Will it get pushed back again probably, or
I would think so,
hope they're not going to be coming picking up
Depends
on
on what
Saturday?
it all
Somewhere
depends on
else.
what,
Parade.
Yeah.
like again, it's a guessing game.
Right.
So we don't know what we're gonna
Okay.
get or what we do get.
Don't
So
know
if it
until
does
But more than
happen-
likely that unless, okay.
Put them out anyway.
Right.
Yeah, put 'em out.
But
When in
I
doubt,
did
put
get
'em
Neil's highway budget for 2014, and as well as the chief of police's, and with their wish list, so we can. I know you. It made you laugh a little bit, but so we can look at those things, and the main issue I wanted to talk to you tonight about is the backhoe, and we have that on the agenda for the old business. I'll wait till then.
Okay, thank you.
Can I
Kevin?
just say just one thing before we go on to Kevin? I forgot to mention, in case anybody doesn't remember lakeslocks.org, this picture right here of the Waypoint Community logo is on the Village of Hoosick Falls website. Clicking that will take you to Lakes Locks Passage website.
Oh, good. Good. Okay, anybody else? Kevin?
The only thing is that we did have the meeting with Ed a couple of weeks ago. One of the things that came out of that is the inspection of homes, single-family homes that are being rented. Currently, under our system, we don't inspect single-family homes. We're hoping to get an inventory of those and have inspections happening on those as well over the next couple of years.
Well, I think that's something that we should certainly talk about when we get together as a committee and follow through on that.
Sure.
Yeah, we want to get as much of that information as we can so that we can act accordingly. All right. Anything else? Okay. Old business. We will start off with the backhoe and the skid from the highway department.
Well, I think I think what we should address tonight, in my opinion, is the backhoe. I think we can put off the skid steer for discussion, at either next month or make a decision once we get everything together. But Neil did speak with the people regarding the backhoe, or regarding the skid steer, and they did say, Neil, that we had to act on it by May. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
And they would honor the pricing and the trade-in value on our Kubota until May. So
Okay.
we have
So
till
a
then to
little
make a
time.
decision. So we have some time. But and the backhoe, I think that we should look into it. I mean, it's address it tonight. I did check, and the town does not have a backhoe, so we cannot share that equipment. That they have a bucket loader, they have a wheeled excavator, and they have a grade all, but they don't have a backhoe. So if we got a water main break, sewer break, we need to dig, we need to have that backhoe. And the warranty options, Neil also had the salesman provided him the warranty options, which they gave us a few different options with that. And there's one which is standard 12-month warranty, which comes with it. It's a basic. There's no charge. It covers the bare minimum. And they also then they offer a 36-month, which is called a Premier warranty. It's bumper to bumper. That's from, correct me if I'm wrong, Neil, it's exterior issues, it's the engine, transmission, the powertrain, and that's $1,700 for a 3-year extension on that bumper to bumper. There's also a 12-month extended warranty, which would include the engine, the transmission, and the powertrain, which is $300, but that doesn't include everything. So, and there's also a 36-month powertrain, hydraulics, and the engine, which is $798, and they would give us credit for the 303, which is the charge for the 12-month extended, and our cost would be like $495 at the end of that. But the $1,700 36-month, the Premier covers everything, and the 36-month wouldn't cover, like Neil said, if the window broke or something, they come up, they fix the window for 3 years with the $1,700 warranty. They would fix that, come up here and do all the repairs right here.
And
What
that-
they could do here.
Okay, and that includes computer work, things
Everything,
like that?
electronics,
All the
correct me if I'm
electronics.
wrong, Neil, right? You said everything.
What brand is that?
The great olives.
So what you're, as you're looking up for the brand on that, do you have, either Neil or Bob, do you have the purchase price?
Yes.
And we have, they will honor the trade-in
Yes,
on our current backhoe at 32, was it 32,000?
right.
32, which is a pretty high value in terms of a trade-in.
Exactly. 32,000 trade-in on the backhoe. So it'd be 53,000, actually 52,843 with the trade-in.
With the trade.
Yes.
So 53, 54.
53, 54, and if we, at the same time, I think we would do the warranty of some sort. If we threw the extended warranty, the $1,700 one, the bumper to bumper, we're looking at approximately close to 55,000 by the time we're done.
Okay, okay.
And we did some, Neil and I talked about it and looked at the budget, and Neil has ideas where the money can come from as far as the out of the budget, and so we wouldn't be draining just one fund. We'd take part from, we take like 39,000 from the highway, 10,000 from the water, and 10,000 from the sewer that's left in Neil's budget. Right now, there's enough. That's 59,000. We probably won't need all that. But I believe there's, and without Denise being here to answer to what's exactly left in those accounts, but those are, the highway is 5110.2, and the water was 8340.2, and the 8120.2 for the sewer.
So in terms of the actual budget, the funds are there. When would delivery on this be, Neil?
He says there's one in Baltimore, the Ford, which I'm figuring probably 4 to 6 weeks.
Okay,
If not, it'll be longer, probably 90 to 120 days at home.
okay, so 3 to 4 months.
Worst case scenario.
Okay, all right. And the reason I just asked that is in terms of cash flow.
Right.
On paper, we have this, but cash flow, we're expecting our tax levy at the end of the month, some other things to come in.
Water bill.
Water, exactly, water. So if we can spread this out, and we don't, and if the decision, I'm jumping the gun here, but if the decision is to purchase this, I would not be comfortable purchasing it tonight and writing a check tonight.
Oh, absolutely not.
So if we can spread this out a little bit and look for when the cash flow comes in, I think we're on a much more firmer ground in terms of that. So the funds are there, okay? It's just not in hand at the moment because of cash flow. I don't want to give the wrong impression, but the funds are there, and we could look at that within a number of different ways within the budget.
And we wouldn't have to write the check until it was delivered.
Exactly,
You're not
so
gonna
we're
pay for
talking-
something in advance, so.
Okay, and that will put us in a little better position once we know when some of these other funds come in.
We're actually actually into the new budget, but we don't wanna get in it, we wanna use the money we have
Right,
set
so
aside for this
where
year.
we can here.
Right.
Okay, all right.
So that's, I mean,
So the recommendation from you,
is that we proceed and purchase the backhoe at this time. I'd be willing to entertain a motion once, if we'd have more discussion, whatever.
well, if we go with a motion, then we can open up the discussion.
Okay.
Motion?
Yes,
Okay, motion from Ben, second.
I'll second.
Bobby, any further discussion?
Can we stipulate delivery? Are they gonna honor trade? I mean,
As
Yes.
far as, yeah, well,
If
we have a
you
commitment.
vote on purchasing it tonight,
can we
then
take
the
delivery first week of May?
No,
Just asking, water bills go out, people have to, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
if it's a cash flow issue,
I'm sorry, Jerry, I didn't hear what you said.
They're gonna have to do things, they gotta put a quick coupling and
right.
do some stuff to
Just
the
have to get
machine
it.
before they get it,
Yes.
up here and delivered to us, so I'm figuring early is probably second or third week of May.
April. Oh, second or third week of May?
May.
Yeah.
Oh, well then that's,
Yeah, so I think we're,
that's beyond what I said.
And one thing I wanted to reiterate, too, this is state contract, so we're not gonna get a better price than this
Right.
right now, so.
Right.
okay. Bob,
Fine with me.
any further discussion? No?
That's my number.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's
Do
carried.
we need a roll call vote for something like that, Ann, or no?
No.
Okay, I just wanna make sure.
Okay. And we will address the skid at a later date.
Yeah, we can discuss that, next month if you'd like. We still have, like Neil said, they said they would honor that through May, that cost. And, that again is around 50,000 would be the bottom line, about 47 to 50,000.
Okay, so we'll talk about that in April.
Yep.
See where we are from there. Okay? All right, thank you. Little League agreement. Some of you may recall, a number of years back, the board worked on putting together an agreement for with the town Little League. And that was to be a 10-year agreement. And for a number of reasons, I don't know all of them, but it just didn't happen. So we have updated the agreement. The village attorney has looked that agreement over. And basically what it says is that effective, and this is what I'm proposing, effective April 1st of this year, there would be a 10-year lease for the fields at $1 a year. This will also include the night lights of the pavilion. Remember we talked about that last spring, I think, or last fall, as well as an additional field that's been talked about. We've been utilizing it, and the Little League's been utilizing this without a signed agreement. We really need to have an agreement in place. Again, John has reviewed that agreement. I think it's a good model for future agreements, whether it be with Pee Wee football or soccer or whatever, but we need to have these kinds of agreements in place. It stipulates quite clearly who's responsible for what. Little League would take care of the maintenance, all of those kinds of things. Okay, liability insurance, all of those kinds of things. So what I would like to do is have your permission to sign that agreement effective April 1st. And I would entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Kevin?
Second?
Second, Bobby? Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried. We'll sign that and we'll have a copy of that on record. Okay. Snow Street options.
I started out really excited about this last month when I took this on. Not as excited tonight as I sit here with you, but that's okay. There are 3 different scenarios that I looked into when talking about the residents of Snow Street. Now, there's an issue with water pressure. And the 3 scenarios that I looked at, one was to work with the residents on Snow Street and install individual booster pumps. Now, the cost of the pumps and the installation would be around $1,200, which is $800 for the pump, $400 for the installation. In talking with the village attorney, he said that we could create an agreement that would spell out, and correct me if I'm wrong, correct me, and I'm sure you will, that would spell out the liability to the residents in the village. What would be entailed in that?
Okay.
Who would take what responsibility on, and how long that would continue. The second scenario, which I worked on with Neil and the water department, would be to install a new 6-inch water main, which would require new valves on Snow Street, Congress Street, and Parsons Avenue. Service while the road was being torn up would not be affected for residents around there. The approximate cost of this would be between $40,000 and $50,000. Now, I asked the village attorney that if we could ask the residents to pay a portion of the cost to go towards the 40 to 50,000 that we would need to fix, to put in the line. What I was thinking was that if they paid the amount for the booster pump and the installation and put that towards the water line, and then the village make up the rest. That didn't go over so well with the village attorney. He said that we can't ask for contributions for, well, you know, you throw it out there and see what happens. Evidently, it didn't go over well, so we can't ask for contributions for the residents. So if we were gonna do that scenario, we would have to do it all the way and spend the money to do that. The third option, the third scenario, was to raise the tank at its location that it's at now. And by raising the tank, and correct me if I'm wrong, Josh, raising the tank would bring more water pressure to the residents that were there. In speaking with, and I was told by our water department that this would be a very expensive proposition. And in speaking with Mike Mealy from, I want to say Lange, he said that the concrete, I'm going to read this because I can't explain it any better. The concrete footer and floor have to be designed to handle the additional height and weight. It's called overturning moment, and it basically keeps the tank from tipping over in case of an earthquake. Okay?
Okay.
Right, because you never know. That would be an astronomical cost to have to do that. In the hundreds of thousands. It would probably be less expensive if we just put a new tank up on top of the hill and just did it that way instead. So what I would like to do between now and the next meeting, because we still don't have any clarity other than the booster pump, is just, and maybe I can't do this, so, but I'm going to ask anyway. If there's any way that I can try and find out if there's any money available, either to help the residents or help us in doing scenarios 1 or 2. Scenario 3, I don't think is anything that we could do. Is that possible that I can do that between now and the next meeting, or?
I would think so, but Neil, what do you have?
Check into small city grants and stuff, you know, there could be grants out there.
Yeah, I think that's one possible source. The other thing is the Environmental Facilities Corporation might have a suggestion for you too.
Okay. I'd like to be able to do that between now and the next meeting, be able to report back on that and see how I make out.
Yeah.
And Ben, you said
That's-
1,200 per
It's
residence approximately?
correct. There's 12 or 13 residents on
That's
Snow
what I
Street that it would affect.
That's all.
So that's about $15,000. That's why I thought it would get all.
Josh, how far would you need to raise the tank in order to have the impact we need?
Roughly 2.5 feet, giving actual PSI. So you raise it 30 feet. I think they're in 6-foot sections, so you raise it 5 sections. You know, give it an extra 12 to 15
Where that
PSI.
big beacon on top.
So,
Beat
right,
big, yeah.
now when they raise it, they physically like take the tank and raise it and put
They
it on
actually
legs
raise
or
it
something?
from the bottom. They jack it up from the bottom, put a new panel in, and then they do that process over. But the added weight of the extra water in there would put pressure on that concrete pad, which is
Okay.
why I think.
So it's not a matter of a stack height, it's a matter of capacity within there. I mean,
Yeah.
you're not, when you add 30 feet, you're adding 30 feet of water inside it too.
Right.
You're not
Which is
actually
huge
just
amount of weight.
moving the water
Yeah,
that's
it's
in
a
there
lot of
up
weight.
another 30
Yeah.
feet. Okay.
Which is
can't
why
even
it's not.
imagine.
It
Yeah,
ends up not
it's-
being safe.
I mean,
Right.
we got a
Basically,
price, it was
when
like
you get to that.
$300,000, between 300 and 500
Right.
grand
Yeah.
to do that, so.
Okay.
That's not enough.
So
But
what
it
else-
sounded good when we started last month, I think.
So you're gonna look at
Yes.
some other,
Yep,
okay,
between now and the next meeting, and I'll bring that back to
okay.
the next meeting.
Okay, we are a
Folks?
resident on Snow Street, and I talked to some people today that couldn't make it to the meeting.
Would you just give your name so we have it for the
Oh,
record, please?
Mary Scott.
Thank you.
And I don't understand, how are we getting water from the tank? As far as I know, we are getting water from down street. Our water's not coming from that water tank. Does anyone know?
You wanna answer that, Josh?
Tank gravity feeds down. It gets pushed up from our high lift pumps up to the tank for a storage tank.
But as far as I know, we've never been tied into that tank. Does
Right.
anyone know about Snow Street being tied
What's
into
that
that
pump
tank?
that pumps it out in
Your,
the shed?
your water
What does
main
that
is
do?
In
tied
the
into
shed,
the
it has a
main
booster
feed
pump
of
to
that
pump it up the
tank.
hill.
Up the hill, so you're
Right,
getting that from,
everything
you're getting
down
that from the
is all
tank.
gravity
Aren't you
fed.
getting that from the
Okay,
tank?
just one at a time, folks, so we can,
What is the only thing that's gonna solve the problem,
And
installing a new water.
just one sec.
other, oh,
It's done.
So what was the response to that?
Well,
What you were just saying in terms of that? By putting in a new, we've talked about putting a new main in before, and that was ruled out by people who know this sort of thing, saying it wouldn't make a difference. But now it would because of the tie-in?
well, if we put this main in, we would tie into Parsons, Congress, and those residents would be fed off that booster station, which would always have an adequate pressure.
Okay, so that's the option that you're.
Right, and we would take them off the old existing main.
Okay, okay. So that's the difference, I think.
okay. Other residents on the street that I've talked with, we are not for putting in these pumps in our house. No way. And we aren't going to pay for it. No way.
Okay. Yes.
Regarding putting the pumps in, who's gonna pay for the pump? Who's gonna pay for installing the pump? Who's gonna pay for electricity to run the pump? Who's gonna maintain the pump? Who's gonna repair the pump? And who's gonna replace or service the pump when it's needed?
Right. And I believe that's when Ben was listing the options, that was one of the options. And all of the questions that you just asked would have to be part of an agreement if we were to go in that direction. It doesn't appear as though we're looking at that at this point.
But if you did, if decided you're going in that direction, you're not gonna put a pump in my cellar. If I have to put
Okay.
a pump in my cellar, I'll drill my own well
Okay.
and be independent completely.
Okay. Nobody's gonna force you to take a booster pump.
Right.
All we're trying to do is look at the different options. We have at least three that we've looked at. Structurally, engineering wise, and money wise, one of them appears to be just out of the question. Okay, there are two other options. There are issues with the pumps. Looking at this now, putting in a new main that's tied into existing booster pumps sounds as though that's the most logical way to go. But before the village would invest any money in that, and here I am kind of speaking for the board, but clearly we would have experts who know this and engineers look at it to say, yes, this is the way we want to go. So we're just trying to look at what the options would
Yeah,
be.
right.
Well, when
But I
they,
want you to understand our point too.
Your point is you don't want a booster pump. I think we got it.
and we want decent water pressure.
Oh, and you want water pressure too?
Yeah, the whole works.
Who are these unreasonable people?
And when that water tank, the new water tank went in, we were told that we were going to have good water pressure and that we were going to have a new line put in. And there's even marks at the end of my driveway and other people's driveways that they marked where the pipes were going to be dug up and put in. And it never was. And I think it makes much more sense to put in a new line and to look for some funding somewhere for it.
Okay, so you're supporting that option.
Yes.
All right, and that's what we'll do. We'll take a look.
Thought that was the best one out of the three, so,
Okay,
Good.
thank you.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, Bob, I don't know if you want to do this or not, but an update on the Woods Brook
You probably got
meeting that we
more-
had?
You probably got more information than I do.
Okay. So you want me to start?
You
Yeah,
started,
yeah, yeah.
you started.
All right. About a month ago, we had a meeting in this room. Congressman Gibson was here, along with representatives from a number of different state agencies, as well as Senator Marchion's office, DEC, Army Corps of Engineers, Rensselaer County, the Greenway, Hoorah. We had a bunch of folks. And I think it was a very positive meeting. Now, excuse me, Woodbrook has been a long term issue. And the brook's not gonna go away, and spring rains and all of those kinds of things. And the village was very well represented at the meeting, as was the town, and the village and the town are working on this together. So what we wanna do is see if we can come up with some funds to pay for an engineering study, not just to look at the symptoms of what's happening, pick an address, whether it's Hall Street or across the street. If you fix that spot, if you don't fix what's happening upriver, up the creek, you'll be up the creek literally, it's not gonna get any better. So what we came away from is that the congressman is asking the Army Corps of Engineers to look into it and see if they could do what they call an analysis, I'm calling an engineering study, at no cost. Because they're part of this whole issue. They really are. It goes way back. There are some certain time frames. You can imagine the bureaucratic hoops that have to be jumped through. But I'll be perfectly honest, when you have a congressman asking some of the questions, the hoops become a little bit smaller. So I think that's helpful. The congressman has asked that everyone get back to him by the middle of April to see where we stand. Another issue that we're looking at is seeing if we can do some type of a walkway over the top of the earthen berm along the greenway. That's been an issue that's been going back and forth for years. And we're trying to get some answers on that, so the congressman has been helpful in that area. So overall, I think it was positive. I never did expect, an immediate resolution, because even once the study's done, it's not gonna be short-term and it's not gonna be cheap. So we're gonna have to look at funding for that, but at least we need a plan to start from. And I'm hopeful that we're gonna have it. I've spoken with some of the residents on Hall Street who have been really, quite vocal in all of this and advocating for this for years. They seem pleased with that. Again, I've been in touch with the congressman's office a couple of times. They've been asking for updates. DEC has forwarded some information to me around, here are some other options that you might want to look at for potential funding. I've checked those out. Right now, they're all dry as a bone. But, we're on a first name basis, so they've said they'll stay in touch, and we certainly will. So I think overall, it went well.
Very positive, yeah. I think there might be something coming out of it.
So I think that's what, the best that we can hope for at this point, but we're gonna stay on top of that. So that's the update there. Our local court was awarded a grant here for this building, for some rehab that's gonna be done, including, I believe, some flooring or carpeting. And that grant is for $4,694.99. So that's a very good thing. Yeah.
Can't run off the block.
So that money will be put to good use. Welcome signs. We've been looking at welcome signs, welcome to the village, that sort of thing. The signs that are currently up have taken a beating over the years. A couple of them one of them's hanging by, a nail, if you will. We've looked at some signs. Kevin, you've been very involved in doing this, so can you give us an update and see where we stand?
Well, we've gone through the process with a little help from Phil Leonard, Ellen Scott, and Jim Martinez, and the signs were circulated around to the board members and asked for comment.
Yeah.
We solicited two different drawings from two different vendors, and this vendor from Manchester, Vermont, Flying Cow Signs, seemed to have the best design and really did a great job on the drawings and the pictures and whatnot. And the cost of the signs, 5x5 one-sided signs, no carving, are $750 each. A 5x5 one-sided hand carved sign are $1,980, and that's for the hand carved. There's almost double for hand carved compared to the traditional sign.
And the hand carved, in terms of an example that people can see every day.
I think the museum has one.
How about right here at the church?
Yeah, St. Mark's Church also.
St. Mark's Church has one, and is the town sign off on 7 and 22? That's hand
also
carved, isn't it?
hand-carved,
yeah.
So people get an idea of just a flat painted sign versus the carved. Okay.
It is. Actually, I measured the town sign because I was talking about these signs at the last meeting, and Supervisor Sirdan called me and asked me about the signs, and he said, well, at one time, this sign that they put up in Hoosick was supposed to be the same idea we're using today. Then Marilyn lost her office as supervisor, and the new supervisor didn't like what she was up to on this, so it remains blank. So I brought this up to the sign maker. I said, what about putting Grandma Moses here? And he said, I've often driven by the sign and wondered why that space was blank. So I'm trying to find out a number for Mark for the town to put the same Grandma Moses painting in the middle with Grandma Moses Country or whatever we're gonna put underneath there.
Okay.
I think we should just put, we need you here.
Yeah.
We need you to fill this space.
For rent.
Right.
The prices that you've quoted, does that include the reference to Grandma Moses?
That does not. That charge from Grandma Moses property, which we negotiated down from 5,000 to 2,500, that's the price, 2,500 for 10 years.
So we would be leasing the rights to that particular print or whatever it might be?
Correct.
To her name?
Right.
For how many years?
For 10 years.
And what was the price?
2,500. I tried to extend that to 20 years, and they wouldn't go for that.
Can we put that on everything?
No,
Once you sign the agreement?
specifically for this only. Actually, Jim Martinez wanted to use her likeness or something for some of his credit card, for his debit cards, and he ran into the same problem that he would have to pay a fee for using her likeness or one of her paintings.
Is there
Okay.
an anticipated lifespan of the hand carved versus the flat?
Good point.
He said about 10, 15 years for hand carved. The other sign could last 20 years, the regular sign. But I think you get a better, I don't know, presentation of the sign when you use hand carved. It's just a matter of, your budget and what you want to spend on them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you're trying to get people's attention when you're driving by, the hand carved sign certainly stands out much better than the traditional sign.
So for the painted sign, it was $500?
$750.
$750.
Okay, $750, and for the carved sign, it was,
1980,
so $2,000 for the carved sign?
right.
And $750 for the painted sign,
2,500 for Grandma Moses
$2,500.
properties, which the money actually goes to properties and goes to the Moses family in the area.
Is it actually painted, Kevin? Or is it like a print that goes on there?
Part
Like
of
a
it,
silk screen.
part of it will be printed. The actual painting part will be printed, or a screen, or whatever you want to call it. The hand carve is the only part. Actually,
The lettering.
the lettering itself on the sign will be the only part that's really carved.
Right.
How's the reflection at night on them?
I'm not sure. I really didn't get into that with them, but I think if you use a more traditional sign, you're better at reflectives than you are with a hand carved sign.
But what's the process though? Is it like do they actually silkscreen print these signs and mount them on?
This part here,
fiberglass background or something?
the actual painting is screened on.
The
but
Grandma Moses painting itself is
And,
screened.
and all this too as well? Like
all
is it-
this, all this I believe is hand painted.
Really?
But I don't want to take,
Right.
say
Mhm.
something that's not true, so I could find more about that out later.
The number of signs?
3,
3. North and south on 22 and Hill Road.
right.
Yeah, and as part of this discussion, I've spoken with Hasty 3 about the existing signs that we have and whether or not those existing signs could be rehabbed, if you will. And in talking with Ayla, she felt that something could be done through the local artists guild where those signs could be brought back to life, and we could use those on other secondary roads that come into the village. So we would try to use what
Revitalize
we
them.
can. Yeah,
And those are done
absolutely.
by a local businessman who decided that the other ones were falling apart, and he decided he would make some new ones.
Somebody walked off with the first ones, right?
Clay Hill one.
Those are the Clay Hill ones.
Yeah, Clay Hill.
The Clay Hill ones got stolen.
And those were hand carved signs. I believe those cost about $2,000 for those two.
There would be, somebody mentioned insurance, there would be insurance. These signs, if we do this, would be insured. We've checked with our insurance company on that. So we would make sure that they're insured.
1 for 3 signs, right?
What's that?
1 fee from the Moses properties for 3 signs.
Right. But I think it would be great if the town followed through with the same design, has continuity through from the, entering the town into the village itself.
Well, maybe we might even get a better deal from the
If we
Moses
bought
people.
4.
There you go.
If,
Well,
well-
they might charge us more.
well,
Yeah.
who knows, but I mean, we'll see
But
what happens.
I haven't broached this idea with them yet, although actually I just contacted the sign maker the other day about doing this part, and I have to get some measurements for him on that.
So would they modify the existing, Kevin, or have to make a new one pretty much, wouldn't they?
I think in this case, I think just take a screen and
put it on
put
there.
it on there somehow.
Right.
Okay. Well, in terms of welcome
Screen
signs,
piece of fiberglass.
Are these one-sided or two-sided? I'm sorry, I didn't miss that.
One-sided.
One-sided, so it's just, okay, one,
Right.
so.
I think where they're going anyway, it wouldn't really need a two-sided sign if they go where the existing signs are.
Right. Now, the only thing, two-sided, they generally put "thank you for visiting" Hoosick Falls on the way out, you know, on the backside, but we can do that with some other kind of signage.
well, we've done some work regarding the signs. You know, we're talking about economic development here and moving forward with our community. Signs are one of the first things that people would see when they come through, first impressions and all of that. I think you've done a great job in terms of pulling together some options here. Is there a preference in terms of carved versus painted?
Other than the
So
price.
the only thing that,
Well,
right, the only thing carved on this is this, right, Kevin?
This and the welcome to part.
Oh, the
would
welcome
also
to
be
part is
carved.
carved as well. Okay.
Nothing, like the settled in 1827.
Well, we talked about that, changing that as well. I think Rick had an idea.
Rick's idea, right, I saw that.
Changing that to established or whatever the case
Yeah.
may be.
But would that probably be carved as well?
I think that would too.
Okay. So let me just ask this, just in terms of general consensus, at this point in time. A lot of work's been done towards welcome signs. Is the board generally favorable towards new signs? Generally?
And I guess the question before we answer that, where would the money come from?
Where's the money coming from? Yeah.
Where it always comes from. Where's the money come from? Actually, the funds for the welcome signs could come from our economic development funds.
That's what I was
This is part of our economic development package.
Part of the
In terms of the
revitalization,
strategy.
right?
Yeah, we currently have 2 existing funds. There's more than ample amount.
Okay.
In
I remember
that.
you saw that email, said that it was.
So we
okay.
could, you know, that could certainly be done. My personal feeling is that if we're going to do this, it's probably not gonna happen again for a long time. It hasn't happened for a while. Let's put the pride out there and let's show what this community is all about and what it wants to be all about. And I think the signs are quite beautiful, you know, either painted or carved. I think the carved would make a bigger splash. Now, yes, that's more money, no question, but when you see the carved sign, I think that says something right up front, something very, very positive. But again, that's up to the majority of the board.
Can,
It's $1 a
can,
day.
Hmm?
It's $1
$1
a
a
day
day.
for the next 10 years.
For the next 10 years.
Can we make a motion on it tonight? Because we've been talking about it for a long time. It's time to pull the trigger and get it going. I think if we're gonna do anything, there's no sense in waiting another month to try and figure out what we're doing.
If
We
you-
know what we want,
yeah.
we just need to make it happen.
Then if you're talking hand carved, it's gonna take him a little bit longer to make them as opposed to the other sign.
Okay.
If it's economic development money, it's not a budget issue, so.
No,
Right.
it is not. So is there a motion
Motion
to,
for,
Whoa.
oh,
On
well,
which
you can do
design?
it. Well,
Right.
can't you discuss that?
we could, I think the first thing to do would be to go either with the carved or the painted. All right? We get that out there and then determine which one or ones, however that's gonna work.
So the motion would be to,
You can make a specific motion, we'll vote on it, and we'll see if it flies.
well, I would make the motion that we go with the 3 carved signs, and the $2,500 charge for the Grandma Moses,
Rights. or
rights
You
for a
wanna vote on
10-year
a
period of
specific
time.
design as well?
Number 2.
Why don't we just get it out there because
Well, I don't wanna get it voted down, so
Because
I'd
design,
rather
we
be,
can,
I'd
design, we can
rather be
always,
vague.
we can ad lib whenever,
we
right?
could do. Yeah.
Okay.
We can get
Is that-
approved.
So we,
Is that
so we have a
specific enough?
motion, we have a motion for a carved sign,
3,
3 carved signs, but with the carved version.
thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Bob.
Now
Any
discuss.
further discussion? All those in, any discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that motion, any opposed? That motion is carried. Now, how do we determine which one?
I'd like to make a motion that we put it out to the public.
That's right.
Okay, good thought, good thought.
Very good thought.
We could use social media, we could set it up, we could select one of two or narrow it down.
And can we set it, set a time frame to do that, so we're not dragging our feet?
Mhm. Why not?
Can I just throw it out there, seeing as we have a week till elections? Is there any way that we could have, not that you would vote out in the voting booth, but could we have something for when people come in to vote next week, that they could pick that up and maybe take it with them and maybe vote?
Either that or have two pictures and people can sign which one they want.
Yeah.
Oh, just like
Sure,
this.
yeah,
Four
something
si-
like
four
that.
pictures, exactly. Which one, yeah, one, 2, 3, or 4.
Which one they want.
Okay,
That's 50
And then
more than
if
we
you
have
come
to
out
start.
to vote, then you have a say
The-
and the sign.
Yeah.
If you don't come out to vote,
Well, hang on.
Bobby knows where this is going.
No, I know what you're saying, B, but I mean, you could have, 5
Is it-
people making the decision what the sign. I mean, you're talking
Better
an
do that.
unopposed election here. We're not like last time
all we're
was
trying to do is
50
entice
people.
more people
Rick,
to
is
come
there,
out.
Right.
Rick, is there a way to put it on the website with a button that people could check?
Yes, I can, I think, I'll have to research it, yeah, I can't, there is a way.
Well, you
I just need to, because there's a service called Survey Monkey, where you
Oh, yeah,
can
yeah,
set
yeah.
up a poll.
Yep.
And literally people can just vote on the poll, and we'll just get the results based on that.
I just think the more ways we can do it between now and even the next meeting, every different way, we'll get as many people involved as we can and go from there, I think.
Well, the quicker the better. If he's gonna take time to make it, then you wanna drag it out another month?
I think we just eliminate the green ones.
You just-
Well, that's what I'm just saying, what we could do here, just to simplify, is we could narrow it down to 2. We could have one green one, one red one, majority rules in terms of
Okay.
which
I
one
think
we
that-
go with.
I
I mean,
think
they're all
that's a great
beautiful.
idea.
Yeah.
Make it as
They
simple
truly
as
are.
possible.
Yep.
We make it complicated, it's
Or
gonna,
we
it's
could-
gonna be
Simple,
complicated
Gail,
for
this
us.
is simple.
Or we could just pick it ourselves
Yes.
tonight. and
Right, we
be
could
done
do
with it.
that.
For those who aren't computer savvy, could we direct them just to the office here and they could?
Yeah, we'd have to do that, sure.
You put it right in your office, right on the counter, and just come right in.
Somebody had a nice color
and mark
printer
it.
that could blow them up to a bigger size
Ann
too.
wants everybody to come in and see
Yeah.
her anyway.
Can you put them in?
Okay,
I'd like to know
so,
specifically what's gonna
I
be
want
carved.
everybody to
Time it with the water
Can you
bill.
put them in the water bills?
Yeah, if they could say.
So we need to
vote
move
for
along,
two, this is
folks.
gonna be
Yep.
carved.
come
I
on,
know
we need to
Graham
move
wants it
along.
has to be a trade.
So we have approved the purchase of signs. We're gonna narrow it down to 2 signs. We're gonna get it out on social media. We're gonna get some other ways that people could make a selection between 2 of the signs, and then majority will rule.
And we
Are
can
we
make
good?
that decision at the May meeting, or the
the
April
April
meeting,
meeting, sure.
and then we'll be done. At least we can move forward, know what we're gonna build.
Okay,
How many weeks, is it, people are gonna vote until the next meeting? That's another month.
I don't think we ought to go a month, because I think it's too long,
Yeah. 2 weeks.
really.
2 weeks?
How about the end of the month?
That's about 2
And-
weeks,
Right,
sure.
yeah, end of the month.
So we'll get something out. We'll go with 2 of them. All right, nice suggestion. All right, moving along here. Fuel and gasoline bids. We had tabled this from last month's meeting. We've gone with those bids. We've gone with a state contract because it was less expensive. This has been a real tough year, as we all know, in terms of fuel costs and electricity and things like that. We got a very good price going through the county with a county/state contract. So that's the one we're gonna go with, or we would like to go with. We had to have a couple of quick fills because again, the weather was really wreaking havoc with us. But for the record, I am recommending that we go with the state contract.
Main care.
That's through Maine Care, but that's through the state, and well, through the county, I should say. I
Right.
keep saying state, but
So
I mean,
it's
through
county contract.
through county
not
contract,
state,
yes.
okay.
Is it kind of,
County contract. Is there a motion?
Motion?
Ben, second. Jeremy? Any further discussion?
I just wanna know why, I know it's cheaper, but we say we wanna keep things local. And I disagree with going with that way, but that's my opinion, but whatever. I think we should keep it local, but
Okay,
I understand.
Do we have a local bid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
we
No,
did.
well,
We did.
okay,
I
well, he
understand
was last month, but I
problems
know we
happen,
didn't,
but
right, I didn't, wasn't
things
sure.
still happen, but.
No,
No, I
I
know
think
John was
wherever
there.
possible, we're gonna try and go local. But again, we have to just look at the expenses as well. So, but I think your comments are duly noted. Okay. And we voted on that, yes or no?
No, not yet.
No,
You need to ask us.
Okay, so,
Do we know what the rate is?
yes, it's 15 cents.
Over the price at the port, or?
18 cents over.
No, that was the original bid. I thought the other one was 15. Yeah, that was
Well, we wanna
18.
know what they both are, actually.
No, well,
No.
I wanna know what
The
the county
county
agreed to,
one
that's what I wanna
was
know.
15 cents. The other bid was 18.
Okay, that's what I
Okay.
wanna, I knew what, that the other one, that's what I wanna
Right.
Correct.
okay.
So with that, is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
One opposed, the motion's carried. Okay. Marketing presentations. The board has had, we've had 2 joint meetings with the town, and we've had 2 separate marketing presentations given. I expect to receive a scope and a projected cost from Camoin Associates, who was the last presentation, by the end of this week. And when I receive that, I will get that out to everybody so we can take a look at it. What I wanted to go over tonight was really just to get an idea, is the board interested in additional presentations at this point in time?
I'm not, no.
I would say, I think we have enough information, I think we can make a decision with one of the two.
Okay,
myself.
so when I get that scope, then I'll get that information to you, and that's something we can then take a look at, and we can certainly go over it at the next board meeting. But I just wanted to see if we're gonna schedule any more presentations.
I know we had the joint meeting with the town. Will the town and village both be hiring this firm, or just be the village
I was
itself?
just gonna ask that question too. Yep.
That's something that we're gonna talk about. We definitely are gonna talk about. The town is interested in doing it. Please, don't, careful with the quotes here. I am in no way saying that the town is paying for this. What I am saying here is that we both went into this, we need to talk about that. But as far as our overall community marketing strategy, I just wanted to see if people felt we needed to have anyone else come in.
No, I think the two's enough.
Okay, and was there any discussion last night at the town meeting?
No.
Okay, so that's something we'll bring up with them. Okay, thank you. Same thing with zoning. We've received one scope from zoning, and I've spoken with a second a firm that does zoning updates, and they will also be getting information to me. Once I have that and that price, I will get that to the board, and we can make a determination from that point. Okay? Just a reminder to people regarding leash laws, snow and all of that, and the dogs have been out, and not everybody's picking up after their animals, and it makes it kind of tough when you're walking, and unsanitary and all of those kinds of things. So just a general reminder to the public, please pick up after your dog. We do have a leash law, and we will enforce it. Okay. The water bond. Unfortunately, when the last 2 payments went out, not payments, but when the last 2 bills went out for the water bond, there was a mistake made, and the increase for this year was not included. So it's going to be included in the 3rd payment. All right? It's not a big number, but it is a number. It'll be a total of $9 that will cover the 3 payments. It was a $3 and some change for each payment, each of the 3, and it wasn't included. So we will catch up, and it was just an error. So I just wanted to make people
will be
aware.
noticing their bill's gonna go up by $9. for the
$9
bond
instead of
going
3 and
forward.
change.
Okay.
It'll go up by 9 in this
And
next
that's in
one.
the April bill that's going out, Ian?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that'll get us back to where we should be. I'm sorry, Jeremy?
So, and then Ann will notice that they noticed.
Oh, yes, yes.
Sure will.
Yes.
No attention to that.
Very nice. Okay, at the last meeting, we tabled
Yeah.
discussing a resolution because we really didn't know what it was all about. And I have some updated information. And what we have is the village participates with not an organization, but an entity that's known as New York Class, the New York Cooperative Liquid Assets Securities System. It is an investment firm that works just with municipalities. And municipalities can invest funds should they have excess funds. The village currently has some money invested. It's an extremely small amount. It's like $4,000. But when we've had additional money over the years, it's been placed in with this investment firm. We can withdraw it whenever we need to, whenever we use it. The idea is that hopefully you make a little more on the investment with interest. Interest rates have not been terrific. The last few years, we haven't made a lot of money. But the $4,000 is sitting there. We can use it whenever we need to. The entity itself, though, is making some changes, legal changes that they need to make. And that is the point behind the resolution. And I will just go over this because we do have to do a resolution with a roll call. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the class amendment, class being what I just read off. And they need to make some changes. Effective January 13, and they're playing catch-up, 2012, class needed to amend and restate the municipal agreement so that the following changes are made. The investment policy better conforms to New York State General Municipal Law. The governing board is empowered with the ability to further amend the investment policy without further amendment to the cooperative, but while still maintaining appropriate notice to participants. And this allows for the potential creation of other investment options as market conditions change or improve over time. They're asking for a resolution of support for these amendments. Again, this is something that the village has been part of. They deal only with municipalities, as I understand it.
Schools, yep.
Schools as well? Okay, schools are part of that as well. So in order for them to make these amendments to their particular setup, we are looking for a resolution to support this.
It sounds absolutely magnificent as it did before.
Legalese.
Not only that, but you can tell it's written by Philadelphia lawyers, not New York lawyers.
So you're looking for a motion? I'll entertain that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Rick is second. Any further discussion?
Roll call.
We'll go with the roll call.
Yes.
Yes?
Ben,
Yes.
Jeremy.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. New business. Actually, we've already talked about this in terms of the new radios.
Mayor?
Yeah.
When you get done with that, could I bring something up, please? It's not on the agenda, and I probably should have brought it up during the water thing, but it was buried under my paperwork.
Okay, let me just
Yep.
make sure we got everything here. Okay, and let me just get through one other thing here. There's an update on the Bennington battlefield. I think Rick was talking about it a little bit earlier. On June 7th of this year, there's going to be a dedication of the Colonel Baum Trail. And the good colonel was the guy that brought his Hessian troops and British troops this way to try to take the stores from Bennington. And Lakes to Locks actually has been very involved in this and marking that trail. So there's going to be a cavalcade, if you will.
Yes.
It's going to start from the beginning where Colonel Baum and the regiment began, and it's going to go all the way to the battlefield. Based on that, they're going to be doing a reenactment. So there's going to be a lot going on that weekend right here in our region.
The reenactment's the same weekend?
No.
That's going to be a little
reenactment is in
bit later.
August. Right.
But they're going to be doing a number of things. Actually, they said they would have some people in dress uniforms for that.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, the reenactment of the battle will occur a little bit later in August, when it, during its dates. So I just wanted to make people aware of that. Ben?
And,
I'm sorry, did you have something to add
well,
to
also
that?
in association with that, Lakes to Locks Passage is also developing a mobile application. And this is their first foray into that. The Baum Trail will actually be the first thing that you can do on their mobile application, and I'm sure they'll be displaying that same day.
Okay. Ben?
Jim and Dan are going to, if this is approved, are going to the New York Rural Water Conference. It's being held at Turning Stone from the 14th of April to the 17th. This is for continuing education hours for the New York State Water and Sewer License. The cost of the conference is a room for 3 nights it's at $129 a night, $387. The conference is 4 days long, $325 per person, $650 for both. Dinner for 2 nights at $30 per night per person. They are there for 3 nights, but the cost includes breakfast, lunch, and the banquet on Wednesday night, and all the training classes. The total cost of the conference is $1,157. It is budgeted in both the sewer and the water. So I would like to make a motion that we accept the cost of the conference at $1,157 for Dan and Jim to attend and get their education credits.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Kevin, is there a second?
Second.
Second, Bobby? Any further discussion?
We'll have coverage during this thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Go to Josh.
It's all coming.
Let's hope it's not last year, right?
Yeah, right.
You guys got room for a roll away, Danny?
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, we have a resignation of one of our police officers. This is Thomas Finn. We're playing a little catch-up here, but this was effective as of February 26th. So we need a motion to formally accept that.
Motion?
Second.
Ben, Jeremy, second. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Did that.
Yeah, okay, again, just for information, we've talked about this, the transfer annual report, and Bob, you're gonna follow up with Matt Curley to get the information on that. We've talked about the police grant, okay. Our April meeting is scheduled for, is it the 8th? The 8th. So, what we would like to do on that meeting is have our organizational meeting, which we need to start off with, is the very first part of that meeting. We'll still begin at 6 o'clock. The organizational meeting should not take very long at all, but we need to just go over that and finalize that part of it. Also, I'm going to recommend that we schedule a public hearing for our budget for that evening, let's say at 6:30, so that we can have that take place. That allows us to stay within the parameters in terms of the budget. The board needs to vote on the budget no later than April 30th, so that gives us plenty of time. The tentative budget will be available in the clerk's office as of March 30th, and then later that week, prior to the April 8th, the budget, the more tentative budget, or the less tentative budget, because it becomes less tentative as you go along, will be made available to board members, so that when you come to the meeting on the 8th, and to the Finance Committee, so that when you come to the meeting on the 8th, hopefully we'll be able to vote on that. And then by May 1st, the budget has to be then sent over to the Comptroller's office. So we definitely want to stay within our time frames. So I am looking for a motion to schedule the organizational meeting, as well as
Second.
the public hearing for the budget.
And
on
the
the
regular
8th.
meeting will start at 6:30 then, is that correct? 'Cause we have to have the
We'll
public
try and
hearing
have
from
those two,
6:15
and
to
if we need to
6:30.
extend it, we will.
Okay.
But everyone needs to be here at 6 at the regular time, okay? So we have a motion, did we have a second?
Yeah, Jeremy made the motion, I seconded it.
Okay, Jeremy first, Bobby second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion's carried. Okay, and that really takes care of the second motion, because we just did it, 2 and 1. We're gonna be going, I'm gonna ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel issue. But before we do that, is there any other business to bring before the board?
I just want to mention one thing. We had mentioned, obviously, which we like to talk about good things happening here, Hoosick Rising. about the drive-in. Well, we're also probably all aware of Building Wild. Has been very successful.
Yeah.
Right? It's on tonight. And I was at the viewing party last week, and George Verschoor from Hoosick Falls, he's the producer of the show, was there, and he announced that they were signed by National Geographic for another 15 episodes.
Hey.
So it's pretty big news. I was told by Peg Bacaitis last night that we can officially announce that that has happened. The word is out.
That's great.
So I think it's great. They're going to be working on obviously 15 more cabins within a 50-mile radius of Hoosick Falls. And they are still looking for people who want to have cabin built.
They are still looking?
Yes, as far as I know.
Okay.
I did see over at the Falls Diner that they have a little flyer up where you can tear off and call Pat and tell him what your plans are and see if you're eligible for a cabin. And if you want, I'm assuming you can call Pat Bacaitis at any time and let him know that you're interested in possibly doing this. So it's a great thing for our community.
It's terrific.
And
It really is.
I just wanted to make sure that people were aware that they did get reassigned before the meeting was
That's great.
signed.
That's
I
great.
think it's such a hoot to watch a national television show and see people
See people you know. I know. And see the references to the area.
Yeah.
That's really terrific.
Also look for Tuffy's float in the St. Patrick's Day Parade.
True.
Yes.
Ah, oh, that should be very interesting. Okay, before we move to go into executive session, you guys have slips that need to be signed?
Yes.
Okay, if you want to bring them up.
You're gonna have some action
We
before
have to make a motion.
It's gonna what?
Are you gonna have some action for personnel, or are you gonna close the meeting?
No, we'll close the meeting.
Yeah.
But we need the motion to go into executive session and close the meeting. Okay.
Unfortunately, I rode it. I'm sorry, but I put the brakes on there.
Not up against the.
I can email it to you.